Hello, everyone. This is Peggy with Getting Your Affairs in Order. Hello, Ms. Andrea Cox.
Hello.
So Andrea, of course, as you all know, the author of The Final Departure, and we are already at chapter 3. And I love this chapter. And again, we say this about every chapter. I do, because they're all equally important. But today we're going to cover the sort of the foundation of everything, which is having the conversation, is what Andrea has entitled this chapter, so apropos. And so I guess the question is, and Andrea will help us sort of, peel the layers off this onion. I guess the question is, people, does your family know what to do in time of crisis? And how does this conversation start? So Andrea, tell us how this conversation starts.
It's a conversation that we don't want to talk about. And it is a taboo conversation. And for some of us, it feels like if we talk about it or if we ask questions, we're going to die. But that is so not the case. So, it's just one of those things that, let's have this conversation. And the question might be, or the conversation might be, what is the conversation? It's just having the conversation with our loved ones on if something happens, what do you do? So it's having your exit plan in place, right? So when it comes to this chapter, we are talking about senior care options. So just like when, as we're eventually going to die, for some of us, we're going to get old first before we die. So to having those conversations on, senior care options in regards to if, as our parents get old, are they going to stay home? And if they can't stay home no more, what's the option? Are we going to, have someone stay at the house with them? Or are we going to get the house set up in a way so that they can stay home as long as they can? Or say one parent passes away and there's one that's be there by themselves. Are they able to stay by themselves? Are they going to be going to one of their children's houses? Just those conversations, because when it's a crisis mode, and say mom or dad does not want to leave the house and now something has happened, it's going against their will, and it stresses them out and it stresses everybody else out, and they're just going to hold their guns on that, right? That they're not leaving. And then they get forced out of their home. So it's just to start having the conversation. If something happens, this is what we're going to do to prepare them and to prepare the family. So of course it's the DNR as well. Do not resuscitate order. We won't go into too much information just because this can go on forever, but whether or not you want to be resuscitated, whether you want your organs donated, what are your wishes when it comes to your final disposition, where to find those important documents. That's always a hot mess. Like, we hear stories from lawyers on a regular basis, how, they get calls from family who's not too sure if mom and dad had a will, and they're calling like lawyers after lawyers to find out. And it's just a gong show, right? So, and what to do with your stuff. We have our stuff for how many years? So that is that's part of those having the conversation. So if and when something happens, the chapter more starts with when we go on a plane, which of course at the beginning or at the front of the book, it has a suitcase, right? So preparing for that final destination, that trip. So when we go on planes, they talk about the emergency exits, and they do all that from the very beginning before they even take off in case something happens. This is the exact same thing, right? So just very having those conversations and having your exit plan.
Very well said. Yeah, very well said. And, you talk about, and I'm going through this with my parents, you talk about parents that are elderly is one thing, right? And so at a certain age, you kind of expect to have that conversation. Right, even more important to have it when you're much younger, right? Yeah. Like, think about when you have young kids and what happens if something happens to you guys. So are there things that you can give us that ways in which to prepare, even to sit down and have that conversation? I know you and I have talked about this before, so you understand what I'm saying, but are there ways to prepare the environment for this conversation that you're going to have with your family?
Especially when it comes to seniors or those who are older, I think it's more to let them know so we need to be the example for them. So it's like mom, dad, or like, Natalie, my sister, Andrew, my brother, what, if anything happens to me tomorrow morning, go underneath the bed, and just kind of walk them through it and let them know what you have put in place. Because if they have something in place themselves, they're going to tell you what it is, right? hopefully. And if they don't, it's going to get them thinking, right? And at the end of the day, it's one of those things. And once again, I want to say this again, and I say this so often, there's 3 times that we are going to talk about these conversations. It's either going to be on a normal day where we can think rationally, or it's going to be in a crisis mode. And like even last week, I was dealing with a family in a crisis mode. And to be honest, I don't want to go through through that again. But at the same time, if there's nothing in place, it's like now you have to really force to get it. And then that person gets offended, right? And they don't want that to end up happening. And my battery's low. Oh my goodness, I hope this doesn't. Do you see something come? Oh, anyhow, so yeah, there we go. So we could like wrap this up because my I don't have my plug.
No problem. See, folks, live TV. This is what you get. I just want to be able to say, though, very quickly, people, please, please, please remember to share this video. And if you do, send us an email, WhatsApp, text, whatever, Facebook, say done. And you too will be entered to win a copy of Final Departure. So stay tuned. I'm going to say goodbye to the lovely Andrea Cox until next session. People, watch out for your name that you've won a book. Even if you've won one, you can give one to somebody else. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, everyone. Bye now.